Hey, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Christian Talk. I am your host, T. Our topic for today is being set apart in a culture that is lost. I'm not saying that like everybody is lost and I'm just oh so found. No, this is just the topic that we're going to be discussing today, and just like what it looks like in today's culture and what it looks like, walking with Christ. It definitely looks different. So we're just going to talk about, you know, what it means to be set apart. So let's dive into that first. So, what does it mean to be set apart? So, being set apart means being different in your actions, being different in your mindset, and being different in just like your overall purpose, like, just how you operate on a day-to-day basis. So, as a Christian, we are to remain holy, but being holy does not mean perfection. It doesn't mean that you do everything perfect all the time, every day, all day, day in and day out. That is not what being holy means. It's not perfection at all. And I used to think that a lot, like when I first got deeply heavily into being a Christian and what it like who Jesus when I found out who Jesus was, and I found out, more about God, and I read a lot of the different chapters in the New Testament, and it talks about, how we're supposed to live. I was I knew I was so far from how I was supposed to live according to his word. I knew I was so far from it. So I began to try to like shift my mindset, and I used to try to be perfect all the time. Like, and I used to also want those around me to be perfect as well. And sometimes when you are looking for everybody else to be perfect, people take that as like you're being judgmental. And of course, nobody likes to be judged. Depending on the lens you're looking through, some people call it holding someone accountable, and then some people call it being judgmental. It all depends on the lens you're looking through and how you receive certain, things that you hear. What it means is that you're living for God. Like, you're not living for the culture. You're living for God. Like, you're not trying to please the world and the culture, and what the culture thinks is sufficient, what the culture thinks is acceptable. You're living for God, and what God sees and says is not sees, but what he says is sufficient, and what he says is what's right and what's just. So, and you're not going to always get it right, but that's where like the relationship with him comes into play, because when you do fall short, you can come to him, or you can go to him, and you can, tell him like, I don't know why I keep falling short in this area. God, can you help me? Because I don't know what the disconnect is between I want to do right, but when the time is right to do right, I choose something different. Just having that conversation with him, confessing to him, you know, I'm I'm not I keep falling short in this area. That just tells him that you want to please him, but you just don't know how. So then you're asking for his help. Whereas if you're living for the culture, or you're looking to please the culture, you don't really care about what God is saying is right. You're too busy trying to please this world and the culture, and that includes social media, and you're doing what feeds social media instead of doing like what pleases God. Even when you fall short, being aware that you're falling short, it and confessing to him, that's like where the relationship comes in. At least he knows, okay, she wants to do, or he or she wants to do right. He or she just doesn't know how. So you ask him for help, and then you allow him in to help you, and then you just have faith and trust that you know he's working it out, even when you don't see it, even when you don't feel it. It's ultimately just having the desire to want to please God and making the effort. Now, we do want to eventually get to that place. We don't want to keep falling short and then, asking for forgiveness, and then keep falling short and then asking for forgiveness. But the reality is that might be what it looks like for a season, or for a couple seasons, or for a long period of time, until eventually you get that breakthrough, and you just begin to make better decisions, and you begin to rely on your the Holy Spirit, and just pretty much like deny your flesh. So that's pretty much what it means. It doesn't mean perfection at all. So I'm just going to give an example of what it means to have a different mindset. If we're followers of Christ, that means that we not only know who Jesus is, we not only know how he lived, but that means that we are supposed to follow how he lived. Now, none of us are going to be perfect, because that's just, he's the only person that was ever perfect on this earth. But he showed us what it looks like. He showed us, he basically, he gave the example. He set the standard to, like, okay, so this is what our Father meant when he said this. This is what the Father means when he says turn the other cheek. So I was watching the show The Chosen that I was talking about on the previous episode. And in the episode of The Chosen, there's a part where so Jesus and his disciples, they were traveling, and they came across some Romans, and the Romans pretty much made them carry their equipment, like heavy equipment, their helmets. I think they had like armor, like just real heavy equipment. The Romans basically made them carry their equipment. And Jesus is like, no, 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 it's okay. Let's carry their, let's carry their equipment. They're sweating, they're struggling. And the Romans, they're teasing them, they're mocking them, they're just being real disrespectful, right? Jesus is not bothered at all. I mean, he's just carrying their equipment. So eventually the Romans, they start to feel bad. They're like, okay, this ain't cool. These men are clearly struggling trying to carry our stuff. So they're like, okay, the one Roman, he's like, okay, we'll take our equipment back. Jesus said, no, 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 we gonna carry it. We gonna carry it another mile. Like, and the crazy thing is, when he offered to carry their equipment another mile, you should have saw the look on the Roman's face. There is so much power. And I think that's what we have to understand. Like, we think that there's so much power in, like standing your ground, and I'm gonna take up for myself. I'm gonna make sure ain't nobody gonna do me crazy. I'm gonna make sure ain't nobody gonna talk to me crazy. Because that's how we were taught. We were taught to defend ourselves. We were taught to protect yourselves. But there's so much power in loving your enemies and being kind to those who mistreat you. It's like they don't know what to do. There's just so much power in, let's just say somebody is disrespectful or rude to you, and instead of you being rude back to that person, you say something nice or kind, and not sarcastically. I'm talking about like genuinely. Like it makes it kind of exposes them to themselves. It's almost like you don't even have to check a person who's doing you wrong, or a person who's intentionally being rude or intentionally, being disrespectful. In the word that Jesus says, do good to those who mistreat you, love your enemies. When you do that, I don't, he didn't tell us that because he wants us to just get walked all over on by people. But there is so much power in being kind to someone who is not being kind to you. It's like like they're exposed as to who they are, and they have to deal with themselves, right? There's so much power in just in his word, basically, in being kind to those who mistreat you. That's what it means to be set apart, because the culture is going to always, in this world, and just human beings in general, like it's a human being's natural reaction when somebody does something disrespectful, somebody does something that's just flat out rude. It's a natural reaction to want to take up for yourself, want to like check that person and let them know what they ain't going to do, and let them know who you are and what they ain't going to do, because if they do this, then this is going to happen, because they don't know who you. It is so easy, and it's so easy to be that person. It's like, it's almost like we were like born that way. Like we were just born to not be with none of the mess. Like whoever wanted can get it. We were born that way. So being set apart is it, people can see a difference, because we're so used to this being a reaction, or this being how somebody responds to rudeness or disrespect. So when someone sees you respond in a different way, it separates you. It's a difference. Like, okay, this is something I've never seen, or this is something that you don't really see that often. Right. So now that you see me, now you have to know who I belong to. I belong to Jesus Christ. And there's so much power in that. And that's why his word tells us exactly how we're supposed to live. Like the Bible is the blueprint to how we are supposed to live. The blueprint is in the Holy Bible. If we literally followed what the word of God says as to how we're supposed to live, everything would be so different. Our lives would be different. We wouldn't go through half the things we go through. We go through a lot of the things we go through because we don't listen, because we don't follow the blueprint, because we want to do things our own way, because we want what we want, when we want it, how we want it. If we were to follow his word and what his word says and how we're supposed to live and how we're supposed to operate, things would be so different in this world. We wouldn't go through half of the things that we go through. Another example of being set apart, that's also going to look like saying no when everybody else is saying yes. That might mean everybody else is gone, but you decided to stay home. That may mean everybody else looks like they're living their best life and having a good time, and you're making the sacrifices to take a different route because that's the route that pleases God. It's not always comfortable, and it takes discipline. It takes a lot of faith. It takes a lot of sacrifice, because there are sometimes you may want to go with the crowd. You may want to do what they're doing, but You have to say no. That's what being set apart means. And how are people supposed to know that you are a Christian, you are a follower of Christ, if you're doing what everybody else is doing? How are people going to know if you're doing the same thing that everybody else is doing? They're not going to know. So you have to set yourself apart, and it is going to mean saying no. It's going to mean staying home. It's going to mean being alone sometimes. It's going to mean feeling like you're not really having fun or enjoying life, and it seems like everybody else is. So it's like a thermostat. Like, you're either setting the temperature or you're just blending in with the temperature. And a lot of people don't want to be alone in their temperature or their walk or their decisions. So sometimes setting the temperature, you might be the only person over here with that temperature, but people are going to be able to identify you as being set apart. Oh yeah, I seen her at the party. Yeah, she was over there. She wasn't over there with them dancing and drinking and smoking. She was over there talking to the old folks. So, but if they see you over there with, you just blending in with the rest of the temperature. So you have to really, it's almost like one of those things like, okay, well, are you a leader or are you a follower, right? And you have to make those decisions every time they're presented to you. Like, and just ask yourself, am I going to set the temperature or am I going to blend in with the temperature? And I think a lot of times it's easy for us to just blend in with the temperature because we don't want to seem unpopular. We don't want to be like the outcast, or, I remember a family member of mine, when we used to have like get-togethers, she used to call me I think it was like a Fruit Loop or something. Like, it was some cereal name she used to call me because I didn't like partake in a lot of the things that everybody else was doing. So I stood out. I was like the outcast. So she's like, oh, she's a Fruit Loop. And I would just laugh it off. But that's what you want. You want to be set apart. Now, don't get me wrong. There were times where I absolutely blended in and I feel short. So it's like, it's almost like you have to really surround yourself around like-minded individuals. You have to surround yourself with people who are on the same walk as you, and who desire the same things as you, like the way of living. And you have to be around that, because it is easy to just like conform to the things around you. It's easy to just fall in. And there were times where I fell in and I blended in with the temperature, and there were times where I set the temperature and I declined and I said no, or I left early, or I drank water instead of having a glass of wine or having a shot. Not always, but it's easier to not partake in those things when they're not tempting you and they're not like right in front of you. And then sometimes you just want to you want to feel like you're a part of. You want to feel like, oh, well, they're all having fun, and like, I want to have fun too. You don't want to feel like deserted on this island by yourself. So sometimes you blend in with the temperature. You do have to kind of separate yourself from like the company you keep. You have to have different friend groups. And when you start on this walk, you might see your friendships begin to become a little distant and separated, because it's hard to continue to be around the same things when you're trying to do something different. It's easier to stay on that walk when you're trying to please God, when you have other believers around you that are trying to do the same, and having like accountability partners and people who are going to hold you accountable. So it's really best to just surround yourself with like-minded people. You know, when the Bible talks about being equally yoked, I don't know if it's talking specifically, or I'll say, I don't know if it's limited to just relationships, like romantic relationships or marriages. You need to be equally yoked in your friendships also. And I believe that, you know, being God's chosen and being set apart is not about what God can do for you. It's about what you are doing to live right for him, how you desire to please him. You know, it's about just wanting a relationship with him, not because of what he can do for you, but because simply who he is. Just appreciating and just loving who he is. Like, I love you for who you are, not because of what you do, but because of simply who you are. You know, just like make him smile a little bit, give him something to brag about. So, it's I don't know, when you think about a chosen people set apart, you think about those who are making the sacrifices. So I'm going to ask everybody this question, including myself, and I just want you to take a moment, just take some time, even after this video, just take some time and just really reflect on the question and really ask yourself. So the question is, what areas of my life am I reflecting the culture more than I'm reflecting Christ? So one of the things that still reflects culture more than it does Christ for me, it would have to be image. It would have to be like the way that I dress. There was a time where another young adult offered to take me shopping. And at first, I thought she was just being so nice. I'm like, that is so nice. She gonna take me shopping. I'm like, I'm gonna surely go shopping with her. So when we went out to the mall, I was able to pick up on, like, she was recommending certain clothes for me. And she was like, oh, you like this. Like, this is nice. You like this. You could wear this with that. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, no, I don't. I'm saying this in my head. I didn't say this out loud, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh yeah, I could try that on. But in my mind, I'm like, girl, no, I do not like that and I'm not wearing that. But, I picked up on like, oh, so the way I dress must be an issue, because I remember, being handed the little cover up to cover up my legs, and now somebody is trying to take me shopping. I think her intentions were good. I think she was just trying to be like kind of like a big sister. Like, I don't want to tell you that the way you dressing could be a little, much for the church, but let me just try to like take you shopping and try to like, get you to wear something a little more church appropriate. So yeah, I had that problem for a minute. And when I was younger, I really didn't see anything wrong with it. I'm like, well, if I'm tempting somebody, then that's their issue, not mine. And I tried to make it like, I tried to not hold myself accountable. But as I got older and I got more mature, now there's certain things that I don't even want to wear, because I'm like, I don't want my body to be as revealing as it can be. Now, I do have a pretty nice shape, so some things you just gonna see it. Something like, now I won't intentionally like have cleavage. Like, I'll feel uncomfortable if I have on a shirt and I see like a little bit of cleavage. I'm like very subconscious, trying to like keep pulling my shirt up, like, oh, I should have worn a different shirt. Or if something is too short, I'm like, I gotta put something to cover it up. So now as I matured, I'm more aware of that's just not appropriate. Not because you can't wear it, because yes, God does want us to come as we are, but it can be a little challenging for one to say it's like acceptable for church. Like, I mean, I don't think anything is not acceptable, because nobody is going to really just like kick you out of the church for what you wear or how you dress. But I think it's more so of a respect for God and a respect for your brothers and sisters, and well, the brothers, having respect for your brothers in Christ, because your brothers in Christ are still men, and they still have eyes, and they still see, and they're still visual creatures. Like, they are not, they got their own struggles. So I had to, it took for me to mature, for me to just want to change the way that I dressed, at least in the church, at least in God's house. But I do still have that struggle outside of the church, outside of, being in a place where I know God's people are going to be. I actually went to an event, was it last week? I think it was last week. I went to an event last week, and I got this cute summer dress, and I hadn't worn it yet. It was new. And I was talking to my girlfriend on the phone, and we're like, hey girl, what you wearing? I'm wearing this. And I was like, oh, I got this summer dress I could wear. So I may have tried the dress on before. I can't remember. But if I did, it was months ago, because I bought it months ago. But I remember I put the dress on. I'm like, I don't know about this dress. My cleavage is out. I don't want my cleavage. Like, I got too much cleavage out. I'm just like, all right, whatever, I'll be fine. And I ended up wearing the dress, and I was so uncomfortable, even though there could have been church people there. I don't know. Well, I actually did see somebody that I know from the church there. But even before I seen her, I was like so uncomfortable because my cleavage was out. And I'm like, there's just a certain image that I just want to have as a Christian woman, as a woman of God, and this ain't it. And I was so subconscious, and I just kept, like, we were taking pictures, and some of the pictures, when I seen that my cleavage was out, I would like put my hand over myself, and it was just like, I don't know. The dress was super cute though, but I'm just like, that's just not the image that I want to have for myself as a woman of God and as a Christian woman. Like, that's just not it. But I was not always that way. It took me a long time to get there. And like I said, I'm still, I still struggle with it. Like, I may, some stuff is just going to be revealing. Like, when you have a nice shape, some things are just unhideable. It's just what it is. But I will say that I am getting a lot better at just being more aware of what I wear, as a Christian woman, and understanding you are a representation of God. If your body is a holy temple, I don't know how holy you're going to be with your cleavage out. I don't know. And I don't know, but for me, I was uncomfortable. So I do think I am growing and maturing more with, being conscious of what I wear. And, like I said, some things are just, some things are unhideable, and it just is what it is. But I am getting a lot better at that. But, some stuff I still like, things that are like a little form fitting. But I will say that I am starting to get more and more uncomfortable. Like, even like, I bought a couple pair of jeans a couple months ago, and I was like, I don't want any more skinny jeans. I don't want any more just form-fitting jeans. Like, so I am getting better at that. But, I'm honestly, I probably need to just do like I probably need to just like, just empty my entire closet and just get a whole new wardrobe, because there's so many things in my closet that I just don't feel comfortable with wearing anymore. So even though I do struggle with it, I do believe that that is something that God is really helping me with, because it's nothing nobody needs to say to me. Don't nobody need to take me shopping. Don't nobody need to hand me no cover up. It's just something that and within me, want to do differently. And I have to give glory to God for that, because it's something that's just naturally coming to me. I don't even feel comfortable wearing certain things, because I feel like it's just too revealing. Now, don't get me wrong though, fashion does not have to be revealing. So I think once I clean out my closet and, just get a new wardrobe, I think I'll be good. But yeah, everything in my closet is not who I am anymore. So yeah, that is something that I've struggled with, but God is absolutely working in me and through me, and I thank him for that because it's not me at all. All right, so that is it for this episode. I just want to remind us all that God does not call us to fit in. He calls us to stand out. So do not be afraid to stand out. Do not be afraid to be unpopular if it means that you are setting yourself apart for being God's chosen people. Just remember that and stay encouraged, and just know that you are not alone. Even when you feel like you're alone, you're not. Just know that you are chosen and you are absolutely not forgotten. Even if you feel that way, just know that pleasing God and, honoring him is way more important than satisfying, this world and the culture that we live in today. So that's all I have for today, and hopefully next time we will have our special guest and we'll have some more Christian talk.